Speaking of club form with the national team, we're going to take it to Christian Pulisic's teammate, Santiago Giménez. He scored the definitive 2-0 against Venezia this weekend, a huge sigh of relief for him, ending a 9-game scoreless streak for the Mexican striker. His goal total now at 4 in all competitions this season for Milan. But it was a big woof, finally, and I'm sure he felt that too, Herc, after game by game, seeing Santi struggle so much. Why did he struggle so much to finally be met with the goal again?
Well, number one, he wasn't healthy, so he wasn't on the field. Mm-hmm. But I'd argue that this goal
that helps.
Yeah, but I'd argue this goal was massive for so many reasons. If you see the way he finished it, he made that finish so much more difficult than it needed to be.
Yeah.
That was a very confident finish. Most players wouldn't try from that distance, that goalie. You would just slot it. You would try to put it down underneath. And when it goes in, I think it's more relief than anything.
Yeah.
It's more relief than ecstasy. It's more relief than joy. Yeah. It's like, not just for Santi Gimenez, but for everybody that supports Santi Gimenez. Like, he really needed that, because when he was injured, he had to see the likes of Tammy Abraham scoring goals. He had to see the likes of Jovic scoring goals. So most were already saying, wait a second. So Santi Gimenez goes from being the big signing for AC Milan, the future 9, to being the backup of Tammy Abraham, to being the backup of Tammy Abraham's backup, which is Jovic. So you're, what's going on here? And he gets back on the field. And when he's finally healthy and he scores, it couldn't have come at a better time. Hopefully for Santi Gimenez, he can close these next 4 games out in a manner which reminds not only fans, but I think the board at AC Milan of that I'm still here. You don't need to go get anybody else.
Yeah. Very important to all young players, players that are kind of new into a team, leave that lasting impression.
Yeah.
So when everybody leaves, all they're thinking is, "Ooh, I really like where he was. I like how he turned that corner." And, getting that goal now, can he, and I don't necessarily think it's all about goals. Also, I think the coaches and people and fans who are focusing on one team recognize the contributions you make without just goal scoring.
Not everyone, Case, especially with Santiago Giménez.
Yeah.
Well, then you need to do more when you're not scoring.
That's the problem. That's the issue.
That would be because we've all seen that goal scorer, Herc, that they scored 2 goals, but you don't even know they're on the pitch.
Right.
And then you have that other guy that he's everywhere and maybe doesn't score prolifically, but all your teammates are like,
he needs to be on the field.
I love what this guy does for us.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Santiago Gimenez is he's a forward that offers you very little if he's not scoring goals, because he doesn't combine particularly well. He's not a player that works particularly hard off the ball and gets you, where you can bring other players into the attack. He's a player that when his runs are crisp and everything is in front of him, he's very dangerous and he's very, very vertical, and he's a goal scorer, but he needs to score those goals.
Well, you have to score those goals.
You have to.
If you're not doing the other stuff, you better then remind everybody that this is why I have to be on the pitch, is for these 10 touches, I score 2 goals.
Chris, I will also defend Santi Gimenez here, and it's not a Santi Gimenez issue per se. I think this is also a Milan issue. If you look at Santi Gimenez, same thing happened with Tammy Abraham. Same thing happened with Jovic. Same thing happened with Morata. These are players, 9s, who for whatever reason weren't scoring many goals. Why is that? Are these bad players? No, these aren't bad players. They just play in a way where the goal scorers aren't the 9s. The goal scorers are the players in the wing, whether it's the right wing, Christian Pulisic's out, whether it's the left wing, Rafael's out, whether it's a 10 spot, or even Rangers coming from the midfield.
Yeah.
You facilitate if you're the 9, and that's an issue for any 9 who's in that system.
Well, and any 9 that's not, like you said, a natural facilitator.
Right, correct.
So.
And you're adding the extra layer about the fact that Santi came in as a winter transfer.
Yes.
Which is the expectation to make an immediate impact.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which
in a team that's
he
been
did,
struggling.
but it was very short-lived. So you kind of touched on this, Herc, but Case, I want to ask you, is it on Santi Gimenez, or has he been, I don't want to call him a victim, but Is it more his surroundings and how the club is struggling?
Well,
that doesn't
what's
help his
also
situation?
really difficult if you sign a player to play a particular way that's not natural for them. What makes the most sense is you say, I need a player that facilitates my two, if you're playing a 4-3-3 on my two wide players, I need a player that facilitates those two to come inside, and I have a guy that just kind of floats looking to be the final touch. No, find a player and sign a player that plays the way your team needs it.
Yeah.
It's so much easier than asking a player to play a way they haven't played and to try to learn a way that's not natural to
Santi
them.
Gimenez now has the difficult task of leaving that lasting impression that Casey has mentioned these final 4 games, and also hoping that the next coach that comes in, because it looks like it's not going to be Sergio Conceição. So whoever that next coach who comes in sees value in Santi Gimenez as a 9 and what he could offer.
Yeah, again, in this short-lived campaign that has been for him between injuries and, again, having been that winter transfer. Like I said, immediate impact, it really didn't last long. Herc, does any other player come to mind? I know you talked about teammates and former players of AC Milan, but any other player that struggled at the beginning and then overcame those struggles that maybe Santi Gimenez can find some comfort in?
I'm not comparing Santi Gimenez to some of these big names, but people will go back and say, well, what about Mohamed Salah when he was at Chelsea? Nothing happened, he left. What about Kevin De Bruyne? What about Lukaku? There's one player that was about to leave his club that was a lost cause in the eyes of the board, of the fans, and that player was Rafinha.
Yeah.
It was Nico Williams is coming to Barcelona, and who's going to leave? Rafinha. It was not Nico Williams who showed up, it's going to be Dani Olmo. We still need to sell Rafinha. And if not because certain players couldn't get registered, Rafinha would have been gone.
Yeah.
He stays, and he's a legit Ballon d'Or candidate right now, so you can change your circumstances. I repeat, I am not comparing Santi Gimenez to Rafinha, but go back and look at Rafinha with Barcelona before this season. He was on his way out, so there's still something you can do. And the reality is, Case, they brought you in because they saw something.
For sure.
Show them that something.
I mean, look, there's been plenty of players that have been able to change a club's mind. Look, when I was at Fulham, there was talks of getting rid of Clint.
Yeah.
And Clint changed a new coach's mind and said, and then had a very good spell. I mean, look at Weston.
Yeah.
I mean,
Every year.
Juve every year said we're going to get rid of him, and then every year he works his way back into the starting lineup and then plays week in and week out. That's, when you can, and it gets even trickier when you have this merry-go-round of coaches, because it feels like each time a new coach comes in, you have to reprove yourself.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, hey, wait a minute here. I think I'm going to bring somebody in for that position. And then you keep changing their mind. And that, it's possible. It's difficult, but it's possible.
Maybe a closer situation or a closer example to Santi Gimenez that I literally just thought of, Chucky Lozano with Gattuso. He was literally kicked out of one of the trainings and then found his way back eventually as a starter. We all know how that story ended with Chucky Lozano and Napoli. That's a horse of a different color. But that might be a little bit closer to what Santi Gimenez is kind of going through at the moment.